Guys, some people think we're on the brink of what? Let's find out.
I came on today, one, because I believe in what this panel is doing, but more importantly, I need to appeal to this panel to help us save your lives, my life, and everybody's life. We are closer today than we have ever been, ever, in the history of the nuclear era. Since nuclear weapons were used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we are closer today than ever for nuclear weapons being used again. We are literally at the threshold of a nuclear war.
Scary.
Ukraine shot U.S. missiles inside a Russian military base, 300 kilometers inside Russia, and destroyed the base. And now Putin is threatening World War III, nuclear war, by Christmas. I knew that the Democrats were being way too quiet. I feel like it's personal and it's on purpose. And Putin had already said, if you launch U.S. missiles at us, we will go after the NATO alliance and Americans. So now they have put the world in danger because, as Ronald Reagan said, when the United States isn't stable, the rest of the world isn't stable. So you better get right with God, because I knew they were too quiet. It's like a little kid in the other room and you're wondering what they're doing, and you go in and they've dumped paint everywhere, or they're in some kind of trouble, or they've overflowed the bathtub. Not that this isn't much worse, but I'm just saying, I knew the Democrats were way too quiet. Where's Obama been? Where's Harris been since the election? This is insane.
You guys think that the situation we're in is because of the Democrats? You can let us know down below. But either way, it sounds like we're in scary times.
People, we're going to be talking about how hackers pretty much got into Windows, exploited a loophole to forge kernel mode driver signatures. Let's get into this. So Windows got hacked. A Microsoft Windows policy loophole has been observed being exploited primarily by native Chinese-speaking threat actors to forge signatures on kernel mode drivers. Actors are leveraging multiple open source tools that alter the signing date of kernel mode drivers to load malicious and unverified drivers signed with expired certificates. This is actually amazing. Let me just give a breakdown of this. Pretty much, I'm a hacker, got to your computer. If I'm able to actually forge signature on kernel mode drivers, yes, I can install anything that I want to on there. You have to understand, drivers are instructions for how things are going to be processed. Having a specific driver, especially in kernel mode, you have access to the entire computer. This is fascinating.
Recently, the U.S. has faced one of the largest intelligence breaches in its history, with foreign hackers believed to be linked to China, targeting major telecommunications companies including AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen Technologies. This campaign, named Salt Typhoon, compromised call records, live conversations, and even systems designed to manage court-ordered surveillance, exposing vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure. Hackers focused on sensitive regions like Washington, D.C., gathering intelligence on government officials and political campaigns. U.S. officials recommend immediate steps to protect personal communications, including using end-to-end encrypted messaging apps like Signal or WhatsApp. Encryption ensures that even if the data is intercepted, it remains unreadable to hackers. Additionally, experts advise keeping devices updated, employing phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication, and staying alert to threats. Again, this breach highlights the urgent need for stronger digital security, as our reliance on telecommunication makes us more vulnerable to cyber espionage. By embracing encryption and proactive measures, we can reduce the risk and protect our personal and national security in this evolving digital landscape.
I don't know how, if they can hack into Microsoft and they can hack into VPNs and they can do anything, how the heck do we have a chance?
It says, right now we do not believe any we don't believe any have fully removed the Chinese actors from these networks. So there's a risk of ongoing compromises to communications, Ann Neuberger, Deputy National Security Advisor, told reporters. Child, it says, it's the highest public tally yet the Biden administration has given of the scope of a hacking campaign that has rattled the U.S. national security establishment and is poised to challenge the incoming Trump administration. Let me tell you what y'all need, the government people, what y'all need to be doing up down there. Y'all need to dig up them old Blackberries and put them hoes back in service.
Yep.
or y'all better start going using landlines again, because everything is hackable. I don't care what it is, it can be hacked.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever seen that movie.
Are landlines unhackable? If you guys know, let me know down below. I just remember that with landlines, you always have the danger of that cord tangling up like crazy. Oh my goodness.
I don't normally give in to the whole conspiracy theory thing, but this whole hack with phones, text messaging just kind of seems odd to me. One of the things that they're saying that they think you should do to avoid the hack is not do iPhone to Android or Android to iPhone.
Ever since I got an Android, all my friends with iPhones won't even text me. People with Apple phones look at us with Androids as if we're second citizens.
I don't know, it just all sounds really suspicious to me. And I don't have anything credible to back that up with, but it's just, with everything going on and now TikTok potentially getting banned for real this time, like, one of those moments where I might lean into the conspiracy a little bit, I guess.
Please let me know your thoughts down below. I think it's kind of weird. It looks like China's in on our communications. Russia's trying to hit our grid. We've got drones over military bases. It could be just about that time. Oh, and tell me what you think of this one. Is this one connected, or is this just a beautician that was just talking smack?
All right, has anybody heard this one yet? I got my nails done, aren't they cute? My nail girl just told me that her husband messaged her and said that they're talking, I don't know who's they, there's talks of closing down all the national parks. Why? And did anybody else hear this? I have not heard one thing about this. I haven't seen anything about this on TikTok. Like, I literally just heard about it, and I'm gonna go start doing some research. But if you've heard anything, please let me know. And I was like, what do you think? She's like, maybe they found something. But I was like, well, they're not, are they closing down like one national park? And she said, no, all of them. So what's with all these crazy drones everywhere, and now talks about closing down all the national parks?
Is it just smack talk? I haven't heard anything about that. If you guys have, please share.
The US does not have hypersonic missiles.
Okay.
You're either referring to ICBMs, which are not classified as hypersonic missiles, although they are capable of achieving hypersonic speed during their final approach.
But because they don't change their direction when they're in the air, they can be tracked, and then you can mathematically have something hit them and take them out. Whereas with this thing that the other countries have, they can move and do all this good stuff. How did we get behind when we spend so much more money? Riddle me that.
They're on a parabolic path. They typically carry a very large warhead. They're not very accurate because they don't need to be, because they typically carry nukes or very large warheads. Hypersonic missiles are capable of maneuvering, which makes them almost impossible to intercept, versus an ICBM, which has a predictable path and can be intercepted. The other thing you might be referring to are the missiles which the US has under research, but keep failing, and so far have not been produced or put into production or ever used. Russia, as far as I know, is the only country that not only has them in production, but has successfully used them. China is suspected to have them, but has never successfully used them. Never needed to use them, maybe I should say. Hypersonic missiles, on the other hand, can be highly accurate and take out smaller targets. But since they're hard to shoot down, nearly impossible, though sometimes they have been shot down, they can't be taken out that easily, and they are a very big threat. Regarding hypersonics, this is a technology where the Russians are far ahead of the Americans.
So they say, but here's the one cool thing about our military. We don't talk when we have the goods. So watch it.
Now, people are saying that these are Chinese drones spying on us, but that doesn't explain where they got the technology for these drones to operate the way they do. Now, that causes some people to believe that they're aliens because they're operating in a sense that is not known to mankind. And that takes me to this video of Charlie Duke, who is a moon landing veteran who works for NASA, and he out of most people would know if aliens exist. So let's see what he has to say.
Oh, I don't believe in alien life. God showed me a specific answer to two prayers, that they're demonic. Demonic beings that make an appearance and appear to be real, and they are real. The Bible says Satan can appear as an angel of light.
What do you think? Do you guys think they're interdimensional beings from another world, but not necessarily angels or demons? Or do you agree with Charlie and you think they're angels and demons? Let us know.
This is the sound of World War III. What you're hearing is a small swarm of somewhere around 500 drones. And if the conflict in Ukraine has taught us anything, it's that a tiny $200 drone can take out hundreds of millions of dollars of military equipment. And these beautiful drone swarm art pieces are more a military display of power than a piece of art. Now I want you to think about this. In World War II, the Allies secured their victory because of a strong manufacturing base in the US. Fast forward to 2024, and up to 90% of drones are made by one single company, and it's not US based.
I'm more concerned with our antibiotics. They're all made in India and China as well.
I'm hoping that the people in charge right now know what it is. But the problem is that it's either one of two things. They know what it is and won't tell us. Shocking, they're lying. Or they don't know. I've not been able to convince myself that we're that inept. But I think that it is a foreign country, most likely. I think it's probably China. I don't know. I don't know who it is. Could be a Middle Eastern country. I heard some stories today of drones following the Coast Guard last week or the other day, I forget which day, but I'm like, these things are coming from offshore. So I don't think it's us. It could be. But to me, the bigger point is there's no transparency right now.
So let me ask you guys a question. Do you think if we were on the brink of a worldwide war, do you think you could read the tea leaves in advance and feel it coming?
The current UFO drone situation is starting to get out of hand as we are watching a total and complete breakdown of the illusion of control over U.S. airspace. We have now, over the course of the week, seen local law enforcement, members of Congress, and now finally the Pentagon make public statements about what they know. Here's the current state of play, and it doesn't obviously make any sense. So the Pentagon briefing just finished. Here's what the Pentagon had to say. The Pentagon is aware of the drone situation. There's no evidence that it's coming from a foreign entity or adversary. They are not U.S. military drones. It's not an Iranian mothership, which was something that a member of Congress said earlier this morning, that from his sources, that they believe it to be an Iranian mothership that was sent over the Atlantic a month ago, that these smaller, between bike to SUV-sized drones are currently flying out of. The Pentagon said there's no evidence of that. The FBI knows nothing. Local law enforcement knows nothing. None of them have been shot down. Yesterday, the White House had a press briefing where Kareem Jean-Pierre said Biden is aware of and monitoring the situation, whatever that means. U.S. Northern Command, earlier today, put out a statement where stating they conducted deliberate analysis. Again, I don't know what that means, but was, quote, not requested to assist with these events at this time, end quote. These aerial vehicles have been allegedly seen coming in off the ocean. The behavior is clearly intelligently controlled. It looks to be some kind of ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance functionality. Because
that's what's creepy about aliens. Could you imagine if they were doing recon on us? Oh my goodness, the recon comes before the battle. Oh my goodness.
There is no way on earth that these drones that have been being reported to being seen are part of any military force or any branch of our government. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And because they are not able to control and handle it like they want, I know that it's true. Anytime something is going on, you best believe that our administration, our government has their insights already ahead of time. They already know what to expect. 9 times out of 10, you are correct. It does come from them. They are the ones who cause it, drum it up, put it on out there, and label it a crisis or some type of event. Whatever the narrative that they're looking for, they get it. You're absolutely right. A lot of people are saying that, hey, this is from the military, this is our government. That's the reason why they're not bringing these drones down. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. The reason why they're not bringing these goddamn drones down, because they wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare. Do you know what bringing these drones down would consist of?
What?
Do you understand?
No.
That if they opened fire and began to try and bring these drones down, do you know what they would create?
No, what? Tell me.
Do y'all understand what y'all are saying? There's no way on earth that our military, who already has no control, is going to do a thing like that. Don't be fooled. These sheriffs right here, these two sheriffs right here, and a host of other public officials, they were all stationed in New Jersey from all those drones that were just coming out of New Jersey, and everybody's reporting those drones. They is on overnight surveillance. That's all they can do. That's it. Ain't no bringing them down.
Oh, hell no. What it actually is military drones, and the bad news is they're looking for weapons of mass destruction that aren't from us. So this is something important, and we're going to talk about it on our walk. Go get your shoes. Let's go for a walk. Good morning, Venters. I've been talking a lot lately about the UFOs and these drones, and some people just really aren't into UFO and drones, and I can totally understand where you're coming from, because even though I love UFO and drones, I go months at a time without talking about stuff like that. I'm not one of these guys that is addicted to ancient aliens, but 10, 15 years ago, when it was still a new show, I used to love ancient aliens. I just noticed that pretty soon they kept regurgitating the same stories and it got a little stale. So today I want to talk with you about the drones, but I want to talk with you about something that has absolutely nothing to do with aliens from outer space. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Venters, is a channel called Redacted. If you've ever heard of or watched Redacted, let me know down in the comments. Natalie and Clayton Morris are the hosts of their own show there, and I absolutely love it. I watch it as much as I can, and a lot of times they talk about stories and points of views on those stories that we don't really hear from the mainstream media. Are they correct all the time? No, but they're very entertaining. The story I'm going to share with you requires you to jump in to your think tank, and it requires you to use a little bit of your imagination, because again, it's just a theory and it's based on a rumor, but it still sounds really interesting, and I think it sounds like something that kind of raised the hair on the back of my neck, and I think it'll do the same thing with you. When the FBI was before Congress, and Congress was asking them about these New Jersey drones that people are seeing every night, including last night or over the last couple nights, where they've had about 50 documented sightings. So we're talking about when you and I look up at our sky, we just see the usual airplane and the occasional helicopter, right? These people are consistently seeing these drones out. Half the people say they look like mini airplanes, but the ones we're going to be talking about now have actually been reported to look more like orbs than actual craft. So picture an orb. Here's a picture of one now to give you an idea. I'm sure you guys have heard of orbs before. You know what I'm saying. When the various congressmen were asking the FBI questions about these orbs and these drones over the skies of New Jersey, because they've had about 50 sightings just over the past couple of nights, they asked the FBI point blank, rather than just collecting data, because notice they keep saying, oh, we're collecting data on these things, we don't know what they are. The congressman asked him point blank, rather than just collecting data, why don't you guys just use a little might and actually shoot them down? And the answer they gave was really kind of lame. You could understand if they said, hey, we think these might be extraterrestrial, or we think that if we shoot these down, something might explode and contaminate people. You could understand those type of answers. But an answer that you won't understand is, we got to make sure it's not a UPS drone. Now, I don't know what it is, but every time they send somebody to answer questions before Congress, it's almost like they try to find the absolute worst spokesperson they can find. Guys, the governor of New Jersey, they showed him on video in front of a reporter, and he basically said, we don't know what these are. We're very frustrated with this, but we do know one thing. There's absolutely no reason for concern. These things are flying over the military, which shows they don't really care about you much. They're not afraid of you. And you're telling the American people that we don't need to be afraid of them. That just seems really bizarre to me. Here's the reason I love Redacted. They followed a Facebook group with over 20,000 members who were taking pictures and video of these drones, sharing it with one another, and then they were talking about it in their various chats back and forth. That page got taken down yesterday. So those people went ahead and jumped over from Facebook over to the different Reddit threads that are available. And apparently, shortly thereafter, that Reddit thread got eliminated too. But before it got eliminated, some people left some pretty interesting messages, and Clayton and Natalie Morris were able to get a hold of one. And this one that they got a hold of was really creepy, because it was apparently from a military officer that was talking to another military officer. And it might have even been a family of the military officer. I was trying to get the information as quickly as I could, because I noticed it looked like darkness was upon us. So anyway, it said that these orbs, and by the way, keep in mind, they don't really look like normal drones. They look like orbs. So it was saying that these drones are actually 100% military drones, and they're 100% ours. Here's the kicker that kind of freaked me out a little, and I think it might freak you guys out if you allow it to. And I hope you do, because it's fun to be scared. Apparently, these drones are to be used only for special circumstances. What are those, Jetchy? Well, Bob, according to this Reddit thread that again was taken down, apparently these things are busted out by the US military when they believe that somebody has like a biological weapon. Oh my God. If I had a biological weapon right now, So anyway, apparently these drones are used for searching for WMDs, which are weapons of mass destruction. And get this, even signs of nuclear fallout from things like dirty bombs. And apparently they're basically used to spy. So we're all thinking that these are aliens spying on the US base, when in reality it's the US themselves checking for things like weapons of mass destruction, and also things like dirty bombs and nuclear radiation. You fill in the blank. Here's why it's so scary to me, because that would make a lot more sense on why the military is so silent about everything. Why every answer they give us is, we don't know. You've heard that saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. What if part of the reason we let these bad guys in through the border wasn't because we were just letting the bad guy come in? What if we felt like that was our best way to track them and actually find out what they're doing? I know that sounds scary as heck, but think about it from that saying's point of view. It's good to keep your enemies close sometimes, because then you're kind of able to keep track of what they do. Now, here's the thing that scares me. If something happens where hundreds of people lose their lives, I don't think the government really cares. If thousands of people lose their lives, it's unfortunate, but I think the government will move on. But if you end up having a situation where tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, have something seriously bad happen to them, God, that is really freaky. And again, that would make a perfect, reasonable answer to why all the radio silence when it comes to getting answers from our government. Because let me ask you a question, Venters. What sounds more scary? The government telling us that there may or may not be aliens out there or interdimensional beings? Or if they said, hey, there's a real good chance that some sort of weapon of mass destruction is going to potentially go off in this area. Now, I don't know about you, but Clayton and Natalie Morris were saying, and I didn't know this, but maybe you guys did, I didn't. Apparently, New Jersey is the most densely populated state of all the 50 states here in the US. So we're talking, it's one of these places where if anything did happen, God forbid, it sounds like that could affect quite a few people. Now, does that mean that this video will get pulled? I doubt it. I don't think they care about this tiny little channel, but if they're taking these messages off of forums online and you can't see these things because they're just not allowing you to see it, there's something that can be said for that censorship there. There's a reason they don't want people to see that. You might say, well, Jesse, that's because they don't want people to be freaked out by rumors and stuff. Well, that might be true. But if the rumor itself was true, there's no way they would want it to be let out by some people on a Reddit forum or a Facebook group. But it makes sense. If you think there's terror cells in the country, if you think there's some sort of mad scientist that's creating weapons of mass destruction, that would be the perfect reason to bust out these drones. Especially if they look like orbs. If anything, I could see how that would make curious eyes go outside. And if you have somebody that you're trying to find that's hiding, what better way to get them to come outside? Because I don't know about you, but even if I only had one eyeball and it barely worked, I think if I was in New Jersey, I think I'd be going outside in my backyard every single night just to take a look at what's going up in the skies, what's going on up in the skies. I think there's a percentage of us that think these are just random, fun people that are using drones. There's another percentage of us that think, oh, these are foreign countries and they're flying their drones up. But that wouldn't really explain why the US is allowing it to happen. The reason the US is allowing it to happen is because either they really feel that this is some sort of alien or interdimensional being, or it's their own. That would make the most sense. Because if some other country is taking video and sending it back home instantly, why would you allow them to just keep doing that? You wouldn't. They would have shot them down already. And if it is their own, looking for bad stuff, you might want to get out of town. And by the way, that's what the two military families that we're talking about in the Reddit thread back and forth with one another, they were kind of remarking how the two military families involved both fled the state. That's kind of creepy. One of the cool things about walking is it spurs your imagination on. And if you're walking with somebody, you can have really fun conversations. Now, when it comes to me and you, the rest of you venters, I'm sorry that you always have to listen to me, but I'm okay with it. And the reality is, this is what's fun about walking. Now, it would be more fun probably if you had somebody walking there with you in person, right? But sometimes the best walks are just done in silence. They really are. But let's talk about this for a little bit. If it was going to be a case of worst case scenarios, what worst case scenario would you rather it be? Would you rather it be aliens from another planet? Interdimensional beings from another dimension? China, Russia, Iran, or some sort of other foreign enemy, right? Or some sort of backyard enthusiast? Or the US themselves with their own military drones? What worst case scenario would you want it to be? And then if you could also maybe share what you actually think it is. One of the things that's crazy about the evening and when you're looking at cars coming at you if you ever notice, it's harder to make a left turn at night. Why? Because you can't really tell how fast the cars are coming at you and how near or far away they are as they're coming at you. During the day, you can kind of see in a three-dimensional zone a little bit easier than at night. Does that make sense? So in other words, when you're looking at a drone that appears to be a giant thing hundreds of miles up in the air, or miles up in the sky, and in reality it's a small little pizza box drone that's right above your neighbor's yard, sometimes our eyes can play tricks on us. Okay, so what would you guys do if all of a sudden you turned on the news and it wasn't handsome Luigi and it wasn't some sort of, Matt Gaetz or somebody on TV or P. Diddy? What would you do if all of a sudden you found out that there was a bomb of some sort, a military-grade bomb that actually went off? And then let's take it a step further. Do you guys remember when 9/11 happened? When 9/11 happened, there was one plane that went into the building, right, that hit the Trade Center. And then a couple of minutes later, we're all watching at the destruction that happened with the first plane that flew into the building. And what happened? We were literally shocked because everybody was staring and watching in real time as the second building hit the other tower. You remember how surreal that was? And then all of a sudden we were getting reports that every airplane was ordered to land and there was a no-fly warning. And we ended up finding out that there were multiple planes that were under attack at the same time. You remember how coordinated and crazy that was? Well, what if we had a situation where all of a sudden you turn on the news and you find out that bombs have gone off in New Jersey, they've gone off in California, Texas, Arizona, and a handful of other places? Wouldn't that be the creepiest thing ever? What do you think the next day would be like? And what if from that point forward these attacks happened on the regular, and one of the things that we had to do to fight it was just keep going to work like nothing ever happened? Because a lot of times that's what happens. A lot of times that's what happens, right? Even when 9/11 happened, what did they tell us to do? Hey, fight these terrorists by keep going to the mall and keep shopping, live your life. Don't let them scare you from doing what you normally do. Well, that's kind of easy to say after the attack is done. But if this thing starts happening with regularity, that could be a really tough thing. And if you work in one of these companies that's global, and all of a sudden the utilities go out for half the country, I don't even know how you'd be able to work in those scenarios. You go to your phone, and the other day the FBI told us that we can't even send texts to one another. Why would another country be spying on you unless there was an agenda in mind, or an end goal, or an end game? Are they getting ready to tie the noose around our neck, Venters, and take us out? Do you realize that even if they just made it where the phones didn't work for a week or two, there would be people in this country that would be willing to unalive themselves because they don't want to deal with such a thing? Isn't that sad? That would have never happened in the 80s or 90s. Well, Jesse, that's easy to say. There were no cell phones. Yeah, Bob, there were no cell phones. And you know what? We did just fine. Sometimes I wonder, would it be cool and would it be the best for the future if maybe we were just forbidden from using our phones for a month or two? I bet you some of us would decide never to use them again. Maybe I was wrong. I used to always say, guys, trust me, we're 200 or 300 years ahead of the competition because we have the UFOs, and there's still a piece of me that believes that. But there's also this other side of me that fears, what if everything we saw was just theater? What if it was just a game or a ruse designed to scare the rest of the world into submission? And in reality, all we ever had was our dollar that people around the world are tossing out anyway. They don't even want US dollars anymore. We don't have any gold. Everything is just this paper that's kind of worthless when time goes by, right? As things get tough, the dollar becomes worth less and less. And, they keep telling us that We're not really recruiting enough people militarily. And the young people today, God, they can't even handle when you take their phone away from them. They can't even get good grades in school. We think they're gonna go and save the world? I don't think so. So those things are kind of scary. And by the way, still think we're way ahead. This is just my scary side coming out. But I think that we might not be nearly as strong or as smart or as crafty as we used to be. I feel like we've made so many bad decisions, starting with our pharmacy. Guys, we were talking 4 and 5 years ago when COVID happened. We were talking about how it's a shame that India and China are making all of our pharmaceuticals. Well, what's a real shame is that we've been talking about that for 5 years, and to my knowledge, they are still making all of our antibiotics. If none of us can get injured and have an antibiotic to turn to, then we might as well already be living in the 17 or 1800s, right? Oh my God, we're all gonna get skinny this year. Not because we're walking and avoiding sugar and drinking water. We're all gonna get skinny because there's not gonna be any food. You know what would make me feel good? I know this sounds horrible, but if the aliens did come down and started eating all the obese people, I would be like, oh my God, you gave me the ability to save people and I couldn't get them to listen. Oh my God, I bet you they'd all be walking with us. They'd all be walking with us if they knew the aliens were gonna eat them. And you know how crazy species are? Different species like to eat their victims while they're alive. So all these overweight people just being gobbled up. If you're overweight, no offense. That's not gonna happen, so it's okay that I joke about it. Guys, remember, the walk must go on. The truth is, if you're overweight and not so healthy, the reason you wanna get healthy has nothing to do with aliens. We are all on the second half of our lives, and the second half tends to go faster and get cut short a lot. So the way we can avoid that is by walking every day, choosing to drink water over soda and sweetened drinks, and choosing to eliminate sugar from our lives. Maybe not 100%, but I think you and I could both agree, or all of us could agree, that if we cut our processed sugar intake down by, let's say, 3/4, by 75%, I bet that would be ideal for a lot of us. That would still give us the ability to have the occasional donut or the occasional bowl of cereal with our grandkids. But more importantly, it would also set us on a pathway where we could live to be in our 80s, 90s, and maybe even beyond. If we can all start walking and start family traditions, get our kids and our grandchildren out walking, riding their bikes and such, we could really change the world. We could make a lot more smiles and a lot less frowns. People love you. They don't want you to die prematurely. So instead of thinking about going on a walk and saying, I'm going to start it after New Year's, guys, get your shoes on, rewind this video, and go for a walk. Walking is one of the absolute best things you can do. And I promise you this, after you get walking for a couple of weeks, pretty soon your body will start to really look forward to it. No different than Rufus. Rufus, your dog, he will grab his leash and bring it to you just to go on a walk, because there's something uplifting about the walk. So TWMGO, the walk must go on. If you're with me, put TWMGO in the comments and let's do this. It's always fun when you can walk with people, and the Venters have made a promise that they're gonna walk with me and we're gonna walk with you from this day forward. So get your shoes on and let's go. And for the rest of you that are always here with me, I'll see you tomorrow.